Welcome to Food and Facilities, an online show and podcast for all safety, compliance, and innovation news for manufacturing, agriculture, food processing, and food and beverage industries. In this episode, we'll be discussing manufacturing resources and innovation with Craig Sharton of CMTC, Tim Nightingale of Nightingale Resolutions, and George Isaac of Rupsco Incorporated. Welcome to Food and Facilities. I'm Tara Sweeney and I'm your host for today. We're going to be discussing different topics in manufacturing, resources from CMTC Solutions, how to collaborate as a team from Nightingale Resolutions, and sustainable alternatives to pallets with George Isaac of Rupsco Incorporated. Make sure to follow and subscribe on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify for all safety, compliance, and innovation news within agriculture, food processing, food and beverage, and manufacturing. And make sure to catch us every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on centralvalleytalk.com. And if you missed the Central Valley Facilities Expo on August 4th to 5th, you can catch them again in Southern California at the Anaheim Convention Center August 18th to 19th, or the Northern California Facilities Expo in Santa Clara on October 27th to 28th, where facility challenges find solutions. Facilities Expo. You can register online for free today at facilitiesexpo.com. That's FACILITIESEXPO.com. For exhibiting information and questions, you can contact Lisa Nagel at LNAGLE@facilitiesexpo.com or give her a call at 408-829-5111. And join Nightingale Resolutions, CMTC, and San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance on August 19th from 12 to 1 p.m. to unlock the secrets of collaboration to improve team performance. You can register for the free webinar at hubs.ly/H0SVSYC0. That's HUBS.ly/H0SVSYC0. Or you can give Tim a call at 559-970-4349 or give him an email at tim.nightingaledc@gmail.com. And speaking of CMTC, here is a previous recording of an interview I did with Craig Sharton of CMTC. He's the local Central Valley representative, and you can reach out to him for any help with small and medium manufacturers receiving resources. And I'm here with my first guest, Craig Sharton of CMTC Solutions. You can reach him at CSCHARTON@cmtc.com or give him a call at 559-317-9251. Welcome, Craig.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I got a new phone since the last time I was on, so let me give you the updated number. It's 559-281-9129.
Thank you.
All right. How's everything going, Tara?
Pretty good. So for our viewers and listeners that haven't listened to your previous interview, can you give a little background about yourself and CMTC Solutions?
Yeah, well, I'm a resident of Fresno. I live in downtown Fresno in a 95-year-old house with 100% edible landscape. So while I like working with my food growers and food makers, I also like to enjoy my own. So I have my own green smoothie this morning made with my homemade greens and beets and and orange and everything else. So I'm a lifelong lover of our food industry. We've had family interests in farming that I was involved with when I was young. And then when I was working for the city of Fresno under Mayor Ashley Swearingen, we started the Fresno Food Expo to try to connect buyers from around the world to our local food makers to increase their sales, to grow our economy. So I've been doing this kind of stuff for quite a while. In fact, I even had a restaurant called Peeves Public House, where our goal was to have at least 5 ingredients on every plate of food. So we bought a lot of our food from our local food growers and food makers as well. So I'm all about local and supporting the food industry like you. So CMTC is a statewide nonprofit. Every state has one, and one in Puerto Rico. So there are 51 of us. And we were created by President Reagan and Senator Hollings, a Republican and a Democrat, who worked together to help industry. I like to remind people that that's a possibility, or at least it used to be. And that their goal was to put people like me out in the field meeting with manufacturers to tell them about what kinds of programs and supports there are to help them grow and thrive and eventually become more profitable so they can keep growing our economy and employing our neighbors. So that's what I get to do. I meet with food companies, and I have a bunch of them right now that I'm helping through a variety of different programs that are out there.
And your CMTC is also basically its own organization, but it also acts as an intermediary between other companies that can service manufacturers that are small to medium in size.
Yep. So I work with the Fresno Regional Workforce Development Board. So we have grants for local companies to do training that we work with them. And then we have some state funding through the GoBiz department, which is really the state's economic development department. And I've got everything from small grants for businesses with 20 or fewer employees, a little bit bigger grants for 50 or fewer employees. And I've got several of those going on right now. One of them is a goat creamery. We're using the small grant to build an online web store. They had a website, but they didn't have a way for people to buy their goat cheese online. And so we're using that 24-hour grant with a web developer to build that page out for them at no cost. So it's a very small investment that we make, but it hopefully will yield a really big return. And then we have some larger federal grants. And there are a variety of programs beyond just these training grants and consulting grants that we can tell people about, like how to cut half of the sales tax on equipment you're buying in California, or how to apply for the state's California Competes grant, or how to use the lower PG&E rate that we have here for manufacturers in the San Joaquin Valley. So just a variety of resources. So I have manufacturer over here, resources over here. I try to pull them together.
And a lot of our local businesses don't even realize that part of their business can be considered a manufacturing component that would make them available to these sort of resources. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, so I've had a restaurant that they were making and bottling their salad dressing, but they think of themselves as a restaurant, but they forget that that's manufacturing. So then we can use a manufacturing program to help them either market that program or become more efficient at making it whatever they need. Others, like wineries, nobody thinks of a winery when I say manufacturer, but they're taking raw products and turning it into a finished product, and that is in essence manufacturing. Even people, cottage food industry. So if you got a cottage food license for $75 or $85 through the county and got your home kitchen approved, you can begin making pickles this summer, and you would be a manufacturer, and I can help you with grants to help market your product again, or to One of the things that's really great with small businesses is we have some really great CPAs that we work with, and they help you set up your QuickBooks, or if you have QuickBooks, they help you set it up right, because you probably didn't do that. But then they also teach you to use that information. So one of the really cool things was I had a father-son business operated at their home, and they just made stuff. They didn't really think about the business side. They made some money, and the accountant showed them, where their profits were, or where they weren't charging enough, and so they restructured things. Now they're making a lot more money and actually selling more. But I loved it when the business owner said, "Oh, my gross margin on that product is X." And he never had talked like a business person before, but that CPA, the time with the CPA, really helped him turn his business from a busy hobby into an actual business.
What are some programs that you have currently available for small to medium manufacturers?
Well, there's one right now, and some of these have a limited shelf life, and all food people know what that means. It's the same with these programs. So we got a special grant through the state that businesses who pay their employment taxes, some of that money goes into this fund, and then you can pull it back out for training. So it's only for food and medical businesses, but a food business, if they hired some new employees, we can give them the new employees 4 hours of free training and a variety of things, even food safety, COVID safety, Excel, leadership, all kinds of different training to choose from. They go through that 4 hours of training, and it, in essence, gives you a $1,200 gift card for CMTC for any future training. So if you have 5 new employees since last July 23rd, put them through 4 hours of training, you get to pick the topic, and then you would have $6,000 that you could pay for another training later in the year, or to work with one of our manufacturing consultants, like one of the efficiency experts, or we have a local coffee maker, coffee roaster, that is using it to get their SQF food safety certification, which will then increase the number of potential customers for their product. So again, that little grant gets them over this next hurdle and then opens up a wide variety of opportunities for more sales and revenue. So it's pretty exciting. If you have a food company, don't hesitate. Call me. I try to help as much as I can to get you through these processes and understand what your next steps are. It is a little bit of work. I'm not going to lie. Every time you work with a government program, big surprise, there are forms to fill out, and you're going to have to go get some employee data or find a random number off of a tax form. But if you're willing to put a few hours into it, I put a few hours into it, and I don't cost you anything. And then we can do that. But I've got multiple food companies right now using a variety of these programs. It's really, really great. We have a BRC person too, which is another food safety program. We have one of our local food makers that is going through their BRC audits right now, and we're able to take training funds to train their employees about what they need to do to be ready for the BRC audit, what their role is in that process, why it matters to the company, that they can then have more business, which can lead to more work and people getting raises or people getting promoted. It has a lot of direct ties to the employees. So it's very fulfilling work.
Before we end for the day, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I think that I've had businesses and I never had time to go out and find what programs are out there. And I know you don't either. And if you decided to look one day, you wouldn't even know where the heck to call. Am I going to call the county? Is the city, the state, what department? You're going to guess wrong and you're going to get frustrated. So that's my role, is to try. You don't have to call any of those places. Call me and I'll know what the programs are, or I can direct you to someone that I know that does know the right answer. And you know, my heart is right here in the San Joaquin Valley, and every dollar that I can get here from a state or federal grant is one that probably would have gone to the Bay Area or LA or San Diego, and I like to get them right. Every dollar here counts that many more times to me because our economy really can use the help.
And if our viewers and listeners wanted to get a hold of you, how would they reach you?
Yeah, again, my email is C like Craig, and then my last name, Scharton. You can find me on LinkedIn, Craig Sharton, or any of the social media. It's all my name. If you want to reach out that way, or it's csharton@cmtc.com. You can go into the CMTC website and find me there. Or again, you can text me or call me. Don't leave a voicemail. My voicemail box is always full, so I barely even look at it. So it is 559-281-9129.
Thank you for joining me today, Craig. I hope you have a good day.
All right. Thanks for the great work you're doing. Keep it up. I see your expansion into even more food stuff, so that's fantastic.
Thank you, Craig, and likewise.
And again, I would like to invite you to the CMTC San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance and Nightingale Resolution webinar on August 19th from 12 to 1 p.m. You can register at hubs.ly/H0SVSYC0 or reach out to Tim Nightingale. And speaking of Tim Nightingale, here's a previous interview I did with him on how to be able to turn a employee review into a positive, reassuring experience for employees and to ensure change.
I'm here with my guest, Tim Nightingale of Nightingale Resolutions, to talk about how a write-up can build up. Tim, can you give a little background on yourself and Nightingale Resolutions for our viewers and listeners?
Thank you, Tara. I'm so thankful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity and really enjoy this show. So I've been doing this kind of work for 10 years, but I started my own consulting company about 6 years ago. I'll just give a little bit of background. I studied the topic of peacemaking and conflict, and at the time I was a supervisor of 7 people. What I was kind of doing was I was studying the topic of how you can build up a team, how that team can perform at its highest and best. I was studying that in my master's program while I was supervising 7 people. So they were with me as I was learning and supervising, and they got to see the things that worked and didn't work. What happened is I remembered all the things that worked. And what was really nice was I had a good relationship with each of my employees. So they would tell me, Tim, that didn't make sense. Or they would say, oh, Tim, that was really helpful. That helps me be better. And something every supervisor has to do is at some point discipline one of their employees. It's impossible to supervise for a long period of time without something coming up. And so that was a question I had in my mind is, you know, I really like the people I work with and I supervise them. So what is it that I'm supposed to do when they're making a mistake that's impacting all of us in a negative way? This article really takes that concept that I learned when I was supervising people 10 years ago, and then how I've made it available to people that I consult with, because that's what I do now. I own a consulting business, and what we offer is the resource of helping people improve their teams. So I work with managers, I work with CEOs, I work with C-suite supervisors, whatever it may be, that if you supervise someone, I offer resources and training, and we talk about things like, how do you discipline people? How do you invite your team to their highest and best? What does it look like to be productive and enjoy who you work with? Because if you can be productive and enjoy who you work with, you're in a pretty good spot. And what we see often is either teams are really productive and they don't like each other much, or they like each other a lot and they're not very productive. And so what we kind of want to do is find the right match between those two things, essentially so that you can have a long-term sustainable employment situation and productive company.
In your article, you provided 4 examples of how you can phrase questions to help the employee better understand their responsibilities and really learn from the write-up rather than just feel like they're being punished. Can you kind of give an outline of that for us?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll start with sort of the larger picture. So I was working with this management team, and they had signed up for 20 hours of training. And in your mind, you may be like, we could never do 20 hours of training. That's just so much time. But I'll say this about it. This company was recognized as the most productive company in their field in America. So they accomplished a lot, and they were busy. They were very, very busy. But their plant manager said, my team is going to learn this because it's going to help us. And so they signed up for 20 hours. And at about 16 hours in, so the article reflects quite a few different skills that are taught in that time. And it was really a wonderful group to work with. And they would set aside 2 hours in the morning for 10 mornings. And then we just walk through the materials. And so at about 16 hours in, one of the supervisors in the group said to me, I have to do a write-up today. And it has to do with safety. And really the thing is they could have hurt themselves, but also the violation was dangerous. They could have hurt themselves. And sometimes if people don't take responsibility for this kind of violation, we have to let them go. It had to do with production. It had to do with machinery and taking shortcuts. And I told the supervisor, I said, well, what do you want? Do you want a write-up for documentation purposes, or do you want changed behavior? Do you want to know he's never going to do this again? So the supervisor thought about it, and he said, you know, honestly, I was thinking about the paperwork, but now that I think about it that way, what I want is to know this won't happen again. A, because I want him to be safe. B, because I don't want to look for someone else with his qualifications. I don't want to have to let him go. He's been with us for a long time. And C, because I don't want other people to go through this either. The employee knew what they had done was wrong. So that matters quite a bit in the equation. But what I invited him to do was invite the story. Just listen. I said, you know, just listen to the employee. They probably had a reason for what they did, and they were probably conscious that what they were doing wasn't right. So we started out with that. I said, just listen. And so instead of jumping into this is the process, this is what you're being disciplined for, this is the write-up, he took an extra 10 minutes, and it really was only an extra 10 to 15 minutes. It wasn't very much more time. And he let the employee start out the conversation saying, you know, tell me about the story. What happened? The employee felt comfortable enough to be honest, not fully honest right at the beginning. It's not like a magic trick, but combined with listening is summarizing. So after you listen, you don't judge, you don't jump in and tell them what they did wrong. You just summarize. So really the way it works is you listen the first time and then you summarize. And when the employee realizes that you're truly listening to what they have to say, they often open up more. And what was so good about the employee opening up more was the employee said 3 things that really, really counted. One is, I knew I was taking a shortcut. So I already knew what I was doing wasn't right. 2, I knew it wasn't safe, but I hadn't thought about how unsafe it really was. And then when he was reflecting on how unsafe it really was, he actually got a little bit like, I can't believe I did that. You know, the risk that I put. And then 3, once they started talking about safety, which is what the article is really about, less about the discipline, more about the safety, the employees started generating ideas for the organization to be more safe. He said, you know, what I did wasn't safe, and I realized that, and that's not going to happen again. But he also said, but I've seen other situations that aren't safe. And I don't want that for me, and I don't want that for others. And so one topic led to another topic, one listening to summarizing. The third part is asking a question, what would you do differently? And that's really key, because once you think about what you would do differently, you're really admitting that you're not going to do the same thing again. Is really what you're doing, is you're saying, in that scenario, I had other options, and I'm not going to exercise that same option again. I'm going to look for a different one. And also, when you say you're going to do something differently, it makes it a whole lot easier to say what you did was wrong. So that's really key too. And the employee actually started problem solving with his supervisor. In order to do things differently, we could do this, we could do that. To be safer, we could, pursue these things. And then conclusively, the fourth step is just recognizing there is a better different. And so there was a wrong different and there's a right different. And the employee actually told the supervisor at the end of the session, I know you have to write me up. And that's okay. You can write me up. And I know I have to sign it. That's okay too. But you took the time to listen to me and to help me figure out ways we could be more safe. And told the supervisor, I'm leaving this meeting feeling better about my job, about my workplace, and about my future here. Those were the 4 points: listen, summarize, what would you do differently, and then just a recognition of the thing you did doesn't work, and the different thing is the better thing. And with that recognition, that 4th point, it gave space for the employee to, even for himself to recognize, yeah, the write-up is necessary. What I did was really dangerous. So that's what I was talking about with the supervisor. I said, do you want to do the paperwork, which he had to do anyways? Or do you want to know that this employee is not going to do that again? Both were accomplished with just a little bit extra time. So with that extra time, the supervisor came back to me and he said, that was the best write-up I've done in years. He has to do write-ups regularly. He supervises over 90 people. I was still coaching him. I said, how did it go? And he said, it went so well. It really changed the conversation, what we accomplished. And he said, it even changed my relationship to that employee. I trust him more now, and he trusts me more now. And we're going to talk a little bit more about trust, because that's a huge part of working together. When you work with other people, 40 hours a week, 45 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 55 hours a week, you're spending a lot of time with them. And the truth is, you're always making this decision, how much do I trust the person I work with? Just think about that. Think about how often you make that decision. How much do I trust you? Because you make a lot of other decisions based on that, like, should I do this myself? or will this person accomplish it to my satisfaction? Or is he responsible enough to carry keys? And there's just so many things we ask related to trust. Is this person going to keep me waiting? Is this person going to be on time? And the answers to those questions will relate directly to the efficiency of your teamwork. And the direct relationship will be less trust, less efficiency. I've seen that to be true. It can also be true that too much trust, when it hasn't been earned, can cause problems. So you can't be too far on one side, you can't be too far on the other side. You kind of have to make your way towards something that makes a lot of sense. So that was really good that the supervisor could come out of that meeting saying we trust each other more.
That example was on the operations side for safety. Do you have any examples on the sales side for a company on how to build trust and communication?
Oh yeah, actually I have a webinar coming up about that. Obviously, as a consultant, sales is part of what I do to make my resources available to other people. But I'm bringing in an expert in sales. His name is Les Lent. He's going to be talking about sales, and I'm going to be talking about the relationship between sales and production, which is a really fun conversation because sales creates demand, and demand is necessary for production, but sales can't do their job without production. And what does it mean for production and sales to work together at their highest and best? I mean, to the direct response to any comments around sales, which was the original question, sales is also about trust. If you are purchasing a product, trust is a huge factor in it. And the more you need that product to be successful, the more that trust question comes into play. So, which is why when I work with companies, I focus on 3 essential areas of leadership. And that's true for sales, which is, your external relationships. It's true for purchasing, also external, but it's true for internal relationships. So cross-departmental relationships, teamwork relationships, supervisor relationships. And so the 3 main areas of focus are respect, trust, and decision-making. If you can get those 3 areas right, you can build a team. And when one of those goes wrong, it's hard for the other 2 to go right, because respect builds an opportunity to earn trust. Trust increases your team relationships. And with that, you're better positioned to make decisions as a team. And so making decisions as a team really makes a big difference, because if the whole team feels like we're in this together, we made this decision, it makes sense to us, you're going to get all that buy-in, all that productivity, all that excitement. If people feel like, I really didn't believe in this decision, it was just made by someone else and I kind of have to do this, it's really going to be difficult to get those wheels rolling and that productivity going. So that's why I focus on respect, trust, and decision-making. And then within that context is where Les and I are going to be talking about. So we'll switch gears to that in a moment.
I was just about to ask you more about the webinar that you're going to be hosting and how our viewers and listeners can attend.
So you can register to the webinar, and it's called Prosperous Partners. Prosperous Partners. And the idea is that sales and operations are partners and they can do more together. When Les and I were talking about this concept, really the question was, in what type of relationship can production be proud of sales? Like they're really creating demand for what we have. And in what type of relationship can sales be proud of production and say, this product that I'm selling you, it's going to be high quality. It's going to be good. You're going to want more of it. It's going to solve your problem. You're going to be happy for what you paid. And so that was the question. And sometimes there's barriers to a relationship like that. So Les and I are going to dive into the barriers to those relationships. We're going to talk about best practices. We're going to talk about what we've seen to work. And as we talk about those things, we've actually created some like cheat sheets. You can reach out to Les for his, and then for me, we're going to make it available at the webinar. And it's these cheat sheets about working together between those departments. And we basically focus in on those barriers and how we can eliminate them. Because ultimately what we want to promote is this prosperous partner relationship. And so my website, nightingaleresolutions.com, if you go on there, nightingaleresolutions.com, you'll see prosperous partners. It's one of the tabs you can click on. And it's got a full description of what it is, together with registration for it. And then you'll get an email with the Zoom link and you'll be good to go. And it's going to be Thursday morning of next week, May 6th from 9 to 10 a.m. our time. We will have people tuning in all across the country, but West Coast, 9 to 10 a.m. And that's May 6th.
And if our viewers and listeners want to contact you for your teamwork training services, how would they best reach you?
Yeah, so Tara's going to have a slide with my phone number. You can just call me directly. It also has my email address if you'd rather, kind of send me what you're looking for, what you're thinking about, just via email, and I can get back to you and let you know whether or not that's a good fit. Of course, that's what we always look for first is fit. Make sure that what I have to offer fits what it is that you need. But yeah, you can just call me from the information slide or email me.
Thank you for joining me today, Tim, and I look forward to sharing more of your teamwork training and tips.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tara.
And my next guest is George Isaac of Repsco Incorporated, and he's here to talk about how slip sheets can be a sustainable alternative to wooden pallets. I'm here with my guest, George Isaac of Repsco Incorporated, and he's here to talk about how they're helping manufacturing and food processing being more sustainable. George?
Yes, good morning, Tara. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on with you. Just a little background about Repsco. We were incorporated way back in 1971. Our owner took over in the late 90s. And the company was based initially in Denver, Colorado, and it's actually one of the pioneers when it comes to slip sheets. Slip sheets actually were introduced first by the Coors Brewing Company, back in the late 70s. So there's been quite an evolution. Slip sheets have been in the market for many, many years. Repsco moved to California in late 2016, early 2017 to really try to take advantage of the California market, all the food and agriculture that we have out here, and the ability to really introduce the product. We're located on Claus Road in Modesto, just over the border into Riverbank. For folks that are familiar with this part of the Central Valley, we actually occupy space in the former munitions depot that was owned by the U.S. Army back in the just after the war. So we occupy about 55,000 square feet in that depot, and that's where we do all of our manufacturing. For us, and when I speak to prospects, there's really two key differentiators for us that I think separate us in the industry. One is that we manufacture here in California, and that's really a critical thing in terms of being able to help businesses here in California with costs going up, especially with freight going up. It's nice to be here in the state and to be able to help save our customers some costs. The other key differentiator is that our product is 100% recyclable. And that's really important to a lot of our clients and frankly, businesses that are environmentally conscious. They want to know where this product is going. And so we're not putting it in any landfills. What we do simply is when we sell to our customers, once those slip sheets are being used up, we actually take them back and then we grind them down into resin and we make more sheets out of them. So it's a very kind of simple process. We've also got a program called the Green to Gold program, where we can actually set up with our customers the ability to buy back those sheets, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want those sheets back so we can, reuse them. And in this case, the customer can actually derive some money out of that. And it's become just a great program. And it essentially what it does, Tara, it closes the sustainability loop for us. And that's really important. Reducing that carbon footprint is really critical. When it comes to actual plastic slip sheets, there's people out there obviously that have never heard of that term, but essentially it's viable alternative to a wood pallet. So anybody that manufactures and ships a product anywhere in the United States or across the country, in most cases is using some form of a wood pallet or possibly a plastic pallet. So our goal is really to talk about how we can improve the process within a warehouse environment as we talk to logistics and supply chain and production folks, and how we, again, improve that process and also reduce some of their costs. The cost for a wood pallet in today's market, well, it might be more tomorrow because the cost of lumber is going up so crazy. But essentially, a cost of a brand new pallet could be anywhere from $15 on up, depending on the type of wood you use. A lot of companies that purchase a lot of pallets purchase what we call refurbished pallets, and there's companies out there that recover those, make them whole again, and then sell them. And those can go for $5 or $6 a pallet. Our slip sheets generally, on average, about $2. So there's that really inherent cost. But more than that, it's, again, the ability to really decrease the bulk inside the warehouse. Slip sheets take up less space. They're adverse to water and humidity and heat, insects, all things that happen within a warehouse environment, not to mention a forklift driver accidentally bumping into a wall and breaking the wood pallet. So that's really important. Again, reducing bulk inside the warehouse. What does that mean? It means more product that the customer can put in his warehouse. And the same can be said when they load the truck too. More product inside the truck using the slip sheets as opposed to the pallet. And that's really a key thing. So those are the two huge differentiators for us, and really has allowed us to really start to grow here in California.
What are some changes you've seen in the industry during the pandemic?
It's been kind of interesting because have been deemed an essential business because we work in the food industry. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, about some of the verticals that we touch, but we're able to stay open all of 2020. And we really began to just see an increase in our growth. Again, I think a lot of companies, especially during 2020, were looking for ways to decrease their costs, lower their costs. And so they saw this as a real cost-saving mechanism, again, as a way to be kind of environmentally friendly. So we saw some pretty good positives, during 2020. And then slowly, as we come out of the pandemic, we've been able to kind of come face to face with a lot of our clients as well. And that's really kind of important. It's one thing to kind of talk about slip sheets and maybe show some pictures of them. And it's another thing to actually, meet with folks inside the warehouse, bring over a sample and have them really kind of touch that sheet. And that's really important because, again, all of our sheets are custom made, length, width, thickness, from a 20 mil sheet, which is fairly thin, but can hold up to 2,000 pounds of product, to a 100 mil sheet, extremely durable. And so people kind of have a concept in their mind and may try to kind of Google what the sheet looks like, but until they actually physically have it in their hands or put it down on the floor, it's quite another thing. And I think for your listeners and viewers, it's important to really kind of know how the slip sheet is used. So if I can, I'll go through kind of 2 or 3 different scenarios. Initially, I said it's a replacement for a wood pallet. And so, again, it's on the ground. The product is loaded on and then eventually strapped and put together that way. And so to pick up from the ground, the forklift has to have a special attachment called a push-pull unit with actually special forks that go under the sheet and then grab on both sides. So a normal pallet size is 48 by 40. And so when we produce a slip sheet for a client that wants those specifications to simulate that pallet, we'll add 3 inches on each side, Tara. And that's the ability for the push-pull to grab both ends and then pick up the load and then load it into the truck. So that's one way to use it, and obviously a very common way. Second way is some customers may want to keep that pallet, but they want something to cover it before they put their product on. And that will happen a lot with companies that just package their product in maybe bags. So dog food, you don't want tears in the dog food during transit that may pop up from the wood pellet, so you put that cover on. Anything in bags, rice, things of that nature, that's where the pallet cover can become very important. Thirdly, it could also be used as a separator as you build the load. And some clients want that, as they put that together. And then finally, it could be used as what we call a top cap. We've got several dairy companies that we work with here locally that want that top cap to make sure that no dust or their product is not touched by any elements when it sits inside the warehouse, or when it goes into transit. So there's various uses for that. And I think I also talked earlier about the different industries that we serve. So let me kind of quickly go over those. Any business in the food industry, and that runs a very wide gamut, is a client for us. So we deal with dairy, we deal with anything in cans, vegetables, anything like that, are all potential clients. Beverage is also a big client for us. Again, that's important. And then, of course, that includes the wine industry, which I think is an emerging market for us. And of course, we sit here in the Central Valley in the midst of all these vineyards and these wonderful wineries. And so there's great opportunity for us. And then finally, the nut industry is also an emerging industry for us as well. We've got some great clients in that space, and we'll continue to talk to more to kind of introduce that product. It's really far reaching. Cement, fertilizer, chemicals that are stored in boxes. I think you can just kind of let your mind go. There's so many opportunities, but just the basic of anything that's manufactured and is shipped out, again, is a potential client for us.
What's something you wish more people knew about the industry?
I wish and hope that they know that it's a sustainable product. Wood pallets, as you know, they're not sustainable at all. And so we do more than talk about it. We live it every day. It's very important to us, and we want to make sure that people really kind of understand. We're not putting the stuff in the landfill. We're not discarding the plastic. There's some misnomers about use of plastic today. Businesses want to, recycle those products and everything. And so it's important for us. And when we engage a prospect, that's something that I certainly, talk a lot about, because it's good for the environment, but there's so many other advantages to closing that loop and really providing a high quality product. Over the years, we've emerged as the industry leader. And so we believe we are offer the most premium product in the industry. It's a very simple product with a lot of nuances, but it's something that I think all manufacturers should, take a look at. And so we're excited to really drive this within the state. And we think there's a lot of opportunity. The one thing we talked briefly about earlier was freight. And to me, that's another certainly selling point here in the state. We've got a lot of customers who simply take one of their trucks and pick up their product at our dock. And then maybe driving, 25, 30, 40 miles away. And so that's something that's we're also very cognizant about, and we can really help, companies here in California. Our nearest competitor, we've got one in Texas and we've got one in Illinois. And so if there's a company out here in California that's purchasing sheets, there's an immediate cost savings right off the get with freight. The cost of fuel is rising, as are a lot of other commodities in the marketplace. And so we feel well positioned to really grow, and we're excited about the future.
Speaking of the future, does Repsco have any future goals that they're currently working on?
I think the goal is certainly to continue to expand. Right now, we run, to give you folks an idea, we run 2 lines in a 24/5 operation with 3 shifts. And so we, produce probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 700,000 pounds. Our goals is to get up to 1 million or more. And we're also poised right now to even add a 3rd line. And that's something that it's ready to go, as we, bring on some clients. And so we're certainly not afraid to engage a large manufacturer. We've certainly got the wherewithal to help them. And so that's really kind of in our expansion plans. We've also looking at developing maybe some other kind of products associated with the plastic slip sheet, a plastic tear sheet, which will rival fiber tear sheets. So a lot of people that we engage will say, yes, George, we use a plastic slip sheet. Well, they really don't. They use actually a fiber slip sheet, which is essentially paper. It's deemed as a one-time use, Tara, and it's not completely 100% recyclable. And so we're looking at an alternative of a plastic tear sheet. So that's on the horizon. One thing that we have already developed is, and it's really been the result of questions from our clients about, well, George, if I don't have a push-pull attachment, how do I, utilize your sheets? And so we've developed now what we call a master sheet. Again, a little thicker, probably about 40 or 50 mil. And it comes up on both sides with holes, bands where the straps go in. And so the product now could be loaded on the master sheet like that, strapped in, and then a regular forklift can go under that master sheet. So now not only can it be put into the truck, but now your end users can actually take them off without having a special attachment. So that's probably our most recent kind of addition to our standard slip sheet. So we're just trying to look at different ways that we can assist customers. Everyone's got their own idea of how their process works. When we go into these facilities, we look at that process. We look at the palletizer. We look at the way the product is being, put together and then loaded, and just trying to offer, some better alternatives, some environmentally alternatives, friendly alternatives, and frankly, some cost savings. Again, some things coming up on our horizon that we're pretty jazzed about.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close for the day?
Other than if anyone's got any questions for me, they can reach me via email at gisaac@repsco.com. And they can also reach me via cell at area code 209-312-3700. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Would love to come out to the facility and actually meet and provide some samples for folks. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I'm here to do that.
For meeting with me today. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, thanks, sir. I appreciate the time. Take care.
Likewise.
Make sure to follow and subscribe on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify for all safety, compliance, and innovation news within agriculture, food processing, food and beverage, and manufacturing. And make sure to catch us every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on centralvalleytalk.com. We will now have a moment of silence for our Black Lives Matter community.